The first time I saw her, she was standing on the fringe of the crowded market of Solara Prime, hunched slightly, her violet eyes scanning the throngs with something like hope and something like fear. No one noticed her. Not really. Not the merchants shouting prices, not the alien travelers haggling over spice shipments, not even the local security droids performing their slow, bureaucratic patrols. She was small, her limbs thin, her skin a pale lavender that made her seem almost ethereal against the multicolored lights of the market. Her hair, white with streaks of silver, fell loosely over her shoulders, and she wore the tattered remnants of a uniform from a starship I had never seen before. Everyone ignored her. Everyone except me. I was Kai Moran, a human systems engineer traveling with a minor cargo freighter. I had seen many things on the edges of human-explored space, but there was something about her that pulled at me without reason. Maybe it was the way she didn't fit anywhere, or maybe it was the subtle trembling in her posture as she clutched a small, battered datapad to her chest. I walked over, cautiously, unsure of what I would say. "Are you okay?" I asked. She froze. Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought she might vanish into the crowd. I think so," she said finally. Her voice was soft, almost musical, and carried an accent I couldn't place. "You're alone?" I asked. She nodded. "Everyone else?" I pressed. They ignore me," she whispered. It wasn't a complaint. It was a statement of fact. A life of being overlooked. Her name was Elira. That much she revealed after we walked to a quieter side street, away from the cacophony of the market. The more she spoke, the more I realized how much she had endured. Elira was a scout for a minor alien coalition. Her species, the Zephiri, were humanoid in shape but smaller and far more delicate than most humans. They were known for intelligence and adaptability, but their society was rigid. Those who failed to meet certain expectations, physical, mental, social, were often sidelined. Elira had failed, though not in the ways her people thought. She was exceptional at observation and analysis, but she was too gentle, too empathetic, and far too interested in individuals rather than data sets. Her superiors considered her inefficient, and her peers dismissed her as irrelevant. She had been left behind during missions, ignored in council meetings, and overlooked in the distribution of resources. "I've learned not to expect much," she said quietly, tracing the edges of her datapad with a finger. "The Zephiri, we survive by being invisible if we cannot excel. People forget you, or they pretend you're not there. It's easier that way." I listened, sensing the weight of centuries of social conditioning wrapped up in her short lifespan. You're not like that," she said suddenly, turning to me. You noticed me. You asked if I was okay." "I did," I said simply. "Because someone has to care." Her gaze lingered on me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of warmth in her eyes, the kind of warmth that no one had ever given her. The beginning of trust. Over the next few days, I stayed on Solara Prime longer than planned. Every time I left the cargo freighter to check systems or recalibrate our energy cores, Elira followed at a discreet distance. Eventually, she dared to speak beside me. We explored the quieter sections of the city together. She showed me how to read the hidden patterns in the market traffic, how to tell which merchants were trustworthy by the subtle movements of their hands, and how the local gravity currents could shift under minor fluctuations of energy fields. It was a side of the planet no human tourist ever saw. In return, I taught her about human behavior, how to detect truth from deception, how humor could open doors, and how minor acts of attention could build connections that authority and data analysis never could. One evening, as we sat on the edge of a rooftop overlooking the glowing rivers of the city, Elira spoke quietly. "I never thought anyone would notice me, truly notice me," she admitted, her voice trembling. "It's unsettling. And wonderful. You deserve it," I said. Her bioluminescent veins brightened softly. "Do you mean that?" "I do," I replied, "more than you know. Danger in the shadows." But our connection did not go unnoticed forever. Some factions on Solara Prime, both human and alien, had begun to track Elira's movements. They were small-time criminals and corporate spies who saw value in her unique observational skills and wanted to exploit them. One night, as I returned from a systems check aboard the freighter, I found her cornered in an alley by two mercenaries, sleek weapons raised and ready. "Elira!" I shouted, sprinting toward them. They turned, startled by the sudden appearance of a human who clearly wasn't supposed to be there. I barely had time to pull a stun baton from my belt before the first attack came. The fight was messy but quick. I disarmed one mercenary and shoved the other against the wall. Elira watched with wide eyes, standing frozen for a moment until I grabbed her hand and pulled her behind me. "You okay?" I asked, heart pounding. "Yes," she said, though her voice shook. "Because you cared." It wasn't the first time someone had rescued her physically, but it was the first time anyone had done so without looking for a reward, a favor, or recognition. Facing the past. After the attack, we hid in an abandoned observation deck. The city below shimmered like a river of stars, oblivious to our presence. Elira curled into a corner, still trembling. I don't usually trust anyone," she admitted. It's safer to be ignored." "I know," I said, sitting beside her. "But being invisible isn't always safe either. Sometimes being seen is what keeps you alive." Her eyes found mine. "And yet, most people, they don't care. They walk by. They pretend I'm not here." "Not everyone," I said. "Some of us do." For the first time, I saw tears in her luminous eyes. Tiny, shimmering drops that reflected the city lights. She had never let anyone see her cry before, and I felt the weight of all the years she had suffered in silence. "I don't know why I'm letting you see this," she whispered. "Because you trust me," I said. "And you should." The decision. Over the next week, I helped Elira contact a sympathetic faction of Zephyri who believed she deserved recognition. Together, we designed a plan to prove her worth not through obedience or conquest, but through intelligence, compassion, and the ability to see what others overlooked. When the day came to present her findings, a complete analysis of orbital resource patterns affecting multiple colonies, she stood before a council of her own species and several allied humans. Every eye in the room was on her. Every judge, critic, and skeptic waited to dismiss her. But she did not falter. Her voice, clear and precise, explained her observations. She demonstrated solutions that no data-only system could have predicted, showing how small human and alien behaviors could shift entire orbital markets. By the time she finished, the room was silent. And then, slowly, applause began. Elira's eyes found mine in the back of the room, and she smiled a real, unguarded smile. "You found one human who cared," she whispered later. "I didn't find you," I replied. "You found me. A new beginning." We left Solara Prime together. Elira now had recognition among her people, and a position that allowed her to influence her species for the better. She could have returned to being overlooked, if she wanted, but she chose to live fully, intentionally, and openly. I stayed by her side, not out of duty, but because I wanted to. And in the quiet moments, as we traveled between stars in a small, modified freighter, Elira taught me things I never thought I could understand: how to read the subtle movements of alien eyes, how to listen for patterns in silence, and how even someone who had been ignored for so long could shine brightly if someone simply cared. She was the alien girl everyone ignored. And I was the human who refused to. Together, we found something neither of us expected, a bond that didn't rely on status, recognition, or obligation. Only care. Only presence. Only trust. And in a galaxy so vast and indifferent, that was enough.